All right, let's get straight to it. 2010 Dodge Charger. This is the 5.7. And today we are changing the alternator. This is what your alternator should look like. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is get into the trunk, lift up this part here, and you can access your battery and go ahead and remove the negative terminal, the negative cable from the terminal. All right, just tuck that away so it doesn't accidentally bounce back over there. And now we're safe to proceed to the next step. So now we're going to have to remove this part here. So to get that off, you're going to need either a flathead or an 8mm socket, and also remove this hose clamp and this part here. You can see this part here. Just go ahead and pull that up like that, and once you get these hose clamps loose and these off, this whole part should be able to come up. Alright, you see this connection here. Let's go ahead and get that harness. Alright, and that should do it. So you should be able to remove this, set that out of the way, and now you can clearly see your alternator here. There's one bolt and then there's two underneath, and then the plugs are on the back. You have your regular harness, and then you have your hot wire that has to be removed after we loosen the alternator. Alright, so now that we have access to the belt, it's time to remove it. I have my serpentine belt tool here, and you can see the tensioner right here. So here's the hole at the bottom where the tool goes into. So all you have to do is rotate that clockwise, and your belt will loosen up like that. And now I can go ahead and pull this belt off of the alternator. So I'm going to show you on a new part. So this is the top bolt that you can see, which is right here. So that's that single one, and it's sitting up like this in the vehicle. And you can see on the bottom there's two bolts down there, and they're all three bolts are 15mm. So I'm going to show you how to get those two bottom bolts with just a ratchet and a 15mm socket, no extension. And if you do it in the same sequence, then you should be fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this top bolt on for last because it's the easiest to get to. So with this is probably about 8 or 9 inch ratchet. So basically I'm going to get down in here, and I'm actually going to get the ratchet to turn sideways parallel, and I'm feeling for the bolt closest to me first. That way, once that's out of the way, that I can reach the back one easier, and almost have it locked on. Okay. All right, so I can feel the bolt locked on now from this angle. Like I said, you can't see it, but this is the easiest way for me to get it out. So now I'm going to go ahead and pull so I can break the bolt free. Like that, you can hear it. And now I can go ahead and ratchet it out. You can hear it ratcheting now. So that's the first one. And the reason I leave the top bolt in, like I said, is to keep it steady. So now I can probably get down there and finish unthreading that by hand. But since I still hear the ratcheting going pretty strong, I'm going to keep going with the ratchet for now. Okay, let me go ahead and see if I can get that out by hand now. Yep, it's turning by hand now. So like I said, that's why I keep that top bolt in for last, because if I had a top bolt out, especially that last bottom one, would be very hard getting out by hand. So let me go ahead and finish getting this out. Also, just to show you, you can use a ratcheting wrench as well. This one has a swivel head, but you don't have to have the swivel head. So alright, you can hit a ratcheting wrench ratcheting. So that's also working. So if you want to break it with the ratchet and finish it off with the ratchet wrench, that might actually be quicker. So just showing you that the ratchet wrench also works. So once that first bolt closest to you is out, now we can go ahead and work on the second one. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to get the ratchet and I'm going to kind of make it parallel and guide it onto that second bolt head. Alright, and once that's on, go ahead and break that bolt free and get this bolt out, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now I have the second bolt out and they're the same exact bolt, so you don't have to worry about mixing them up. So now we can just focus on this top bolt. Very easy. So let's go ahead and get that out. Alright, so once I got all three of the bolts removed, I was able to turn the alternator to where the back is up, and now I can see the harness. Normally there's a red clip here that you have to push up, and then you can unclip this, but since that's not on this one, I can just go ahead and remove this harness now. So with the harness off, that's what it looks like. So now we can focus on that hot wire. You can see it right there. So that should be a 13mm nut on there. You can see it right here. So I'm going to use just a regular wrench and put that over there, or you can use a deeper socket than a regular socket to get that off. So let's remove that nut, and then the alternator will be 100% free to remove. Alright, so it was a tight squeeze, but once you move the hose back a little bit, and the way I angled it was, I angled it like this to pull it up that way, and it came out pretty solid. It wasn't too hard at all. So now we're going to focus on the new one. So we're going to take the new one and drop the new one down pretty much how the old one came out. So I'm going to need 2 hands for this. You can see, well, probably not, it's falling right down in there, but I'm going to use 2 hands to pull this back while lowering it down. So moving along pretty quickly, I was able to set it down there, and I already have the hot wire tightened down, and I have the harness on there. So there's a safety grommet that's on here, so I'm going to go ahead and get that set over the hard wire, and once that's in place, we can go ahead and get this back on. Okay, so once that's back in place like that, now we can go ahead and get our alternator in place. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and put this top bolt in just to hold it steady. I'm not going to tighten it very much, just to hold it in place. Alright, so you can see I have the top bolt in loosely, and there's a bracket on the bottom on the outside. Let me, I guess, show you on the old part what you have to do. So there's a bracket that sits at the bottom on the outside. So you want to make sure that this slides into the bracket, so the bracket is sitting right along the outside here for this back hole. There's a hole in that bracket that's going to line up with this hole here. So you want to make sure you line that bracket up on the bottom. So now I can go ahead and feel for the hole to the far back at the bottom and start to thread this bolt in. Alright, so you can't see it, but I have the bottom bolt all the way to the back. I have that one tightened, but not all the way. It's pretty much a little bit more than this one. So I have those two loose so that I can get the third bolt in with no problem. So of course the third bolt is the one at the bottom closest to me. So I'm going to go ahead now and get that bolt in. As you can see now, the bolts are all in. I have the bottom bolts fully tightened down now, and I have the top bolt tightened down. So the plugs are on, the hot wire is on. So only thing left to do now is get this belt back on, and we'll go from there. So I still have the belt tucked back here. Everything else is still routed. So I'm just going to bring that back out from where I tucked it. And hold that there. And now I can bring my tensioner tool back out. So I need to go ahead and get that on there like that. Same thing, I could turn that counterclockwise now, and I can go ahead and get that belt on. So I'll be right back when I get that belt on. Okay, so the belt is back on. Now it's time to go ahead and put this piece back up. Same exact way we got it off. Okay, so I got this tightened down, I got this on and tightened down, and I pushed this grommet back down in there. Now that everything is tightened up, go ahead and plug this harness in. So the only thing left to do now is reconnect our battery terminal. So that'll do it, guys. That is it. That is how you change your alternator in a 2010 Dodge Charger. This is the 5.7 liter.